Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Untapped Podcast. My name is Jacob Gabel.
And my name is Jacob Wurtz, guys. Welcome to episode 163 of the Untapped Podcast. If this is your first time joining us, first of all, thank you. We are thrilled to have you here with us. We actually have 5 main formats of our show. So first, we have Forging Fortitude episodes. Now, in these episodes, we cover the mental side of our brand. In these ones, we go over our anecdotal experiences with things like mindset and mentality. We then pass on tips and advice to you guys to then apply to your own lives. Next, and this is what we have today for you guys, we have Physical Vitality episodes. Now, in these episodes, we cover the physical side of our brand. So we really get to showcase our expertise because you have 2 certified personal trainers here. Now, in these ones, we cover everything to do with our fully custom Untapped training app, what we offer, what we can do for you. So if you have any questions about what we offer, please reach out. We are very reachable guys, and we are more than willing and able to help you get the results that you want to get. Now, outside of that, we also cover everything to do with workouts, the gym, nutrition, supplements, diets, mental toughness programs like 75 Hard. And then sometimes we will take trending articles or topics within the fitness industry, kind of like what we have today, and we give our thoughts and opinions on those. Now, guys, these Physical Vitality episodes are full of free game, so make sure you pay attention.
Can't wait to do a quick hit, just solid one today.
Yeah.
It'll end up being a good conversation for those of you guys interested too.
For
today.
sure.
But on to our third format, guys. That is our breaking news format. It is a current event-based format. That is when we sit down and touch on current events, current articles going on in today's world. That was our last episode talking about the No Kings riots, so to speak, and our opinions on those. Now, keep in mind, a lot of content you see around current events is this doom and gloom, just all around essentially sadness or anger-inducing type of content. We're also bringing the solution aspect to the content right now, and that's our goal with this too. Now, on to our fourth format. That is our Knights Table format. That is a masculinity-based format. This is when we sit down and touch on things like toxic masculinity, if it's real, what it is, fatherhood, the impact it's had on all 3 of our lives in here, and then male-based topics in general, and how important men are to the world and also the future of the United States where we are at. Now, keep in mind, I'm 26, Wurtz is 26, our producer Mitch is 24. Because of that reason, we are not coming to you as some all put together perfect man. The only perfect man to ever walk this earth and die for our sins and then rise again is Jesus Christ. Now, on to our 5th format. That is our guest format. We sit down with entrepreneurs, fitness professionals, athletes, doctors, anybody that brings you value or has a great story to tell, we're going to have on the podcast. You guys are going to learn a lot from those episodes. We are also going to learn a lot from those episodes along with you. Now, our last thing to introduce is our producer and my brother, Mitchell Gabel.
What up?
Hey, dude.
He's headphoneless.
I hope the audience isn't like weirded out by it.
Yeah, no, he's got ears.
Yeah, I actually have implanted Neuralink in my head that's communicating directly with the
He's a test
roadcaster.
dummy for Neuralink.
I mean, hey, we keep telling him to start a company.
Yep.
So maybe maybe he actually is going to top Elon's company.
Yep. Yep.
Is that what you're working on?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can see that.
Cool. Can I help?
Yeah, you probably could. Based on the name, you definitely could.
The name?
Yeah, the name of it. It's under wraps right now, but you definitely could help with it.
Oh man.
You're not going to say it?
No.
That definitely wouldn't be going anywhere good.
No, I won't release the name until the IPO. Don't worry.
Gotcha.
Of course.
Do you have a timeline
steal
on
your
that?
business idea
Correct.
too.
Huh?
Yeah.
Do you have a timeline on that?
About 1 week.
It's already ready for launch. It's like that whole team, that in China developed like an AI for $6 million or something like that. Mitchell did it for $500,000 by himself or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. And an offshore team.
Oh my
Pure
gosh.
innovation.
An offshore team.
Yeah. Offshore.
Cayman Islands.
I wonder what you mean
maybe.
by offshore.
It's not an island, but
I'm
It's
lost.
a very brown country.
Yeah. Oh man.
Sorry.
Sorry. As you were,
not to start the episode like that.
As you were going through the your section of the formats, obviously you talked about the guest ones. All we'll say is episode 164 is about to be lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next
Apparently
week.
we're old for saying lit, by the way, nowadays.
I don't
but
care.
Not the point.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Next week.
It's going to be, again, 164 I guess you're hearing this now. They're hearing this on the 23rd.
Mhm.
Yeah, 163 here on the 23rd, so they'll hear it on the 30th. Yep.
Yeah,
That episode's going to be awesome.
it is.
Awesome.
Yeah. Super
Yeah.
exciting one. Yeah. But anyway, like I mentioned, we've got a physical vitality tonight, or today for you. Judge a book by its cover? Question mark?
Should we?
Yes.
Even if it's just like a book.
I mean, there's some pretty stupid looking books out there.
Also, though, I will say too, like if we're talking just books, like 100%, I will look at a book and I'm like, man, this is kind of a cool cover. Like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Now, I'll usually open it up and see the gist of it. If it's stupid, then
Right.
then I won't read it. But
Yeah. Well, I'm actually a speed reader. So
use like zzz, like
I can read an entire book in about 15 minutes and with full comprehension.
full comprehension.
Yeah.
That would be like a full blown autistic level of genius.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For any of you Parks and Rec fans, I am Chris Traeger. So,
So yeah, I
yeah, you don't get it
I wouldn't know
because you're inferior.
I only watch action shows. No comedy. I don't laugh.
I think you
Yeah.
probably still watch the Teletubbies.
I could see that. Yeah.
Mitch, what do you think? You
I might
think
turn that back on. I would watch Bob the Builder again. That's a banger.
You think he's binge watching the Teletubbies now that he's alone?
He was a big Power Rangers fan, actually.
I was actually. Now that you say that, I was.
Is the was really still true, or is it is?
He is a big Power
Yeah.
Rangers fan.
I'm still an Incredibles fan. I will say that. Great movie.
Jack?
Yeah. Jack's a beast. OP.
OP for sure.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. To get into the physical vitality episode, though, the judge a book by its cover is their logic to that statement. When
Mhm.
it comes to, you guys can probably guess, when it comes to somebody's physical fitness,
Uh-huh.
when it comes to coaching people,
Mhm.
and then also we'll talk about how important your physical fitness is later to how people
Perceive you.
perceive your opinions
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you in general.
Right.
Right. And what judging a book by its cover means, because everybody always tells you not to judge a book by its cover, but also there is a biological intuition to judge a book by its cover with certain things.
And
You
it's
know.
also okay to do that in certain situations.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to preface this real quick too about this episode. This won't be a just shit on trainers or shit
Correct.
on people episodes or something like that.
Correct.
It is more just bringing awareness to what good physical fitness brings you and what bad physical fitness brings you,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're a coach or just a regular gen pop human being, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
We're not here, and because I'm sure are there coaches who don't look great but also are very smart. Yes, I've met coaches that are great
Yeah.
coaches and they haven't really worked on their physique lately.
Right.
That's very true.
Right.
You know, are there very smart people that are overweight or obese? Yeah, you can make that argument for sure.
Mhm.
But it does open questions. Is kind of the route we're going with this. It opens questions about that person's character to a certain degree, and you know
Yeah.
what they're capable of, etc. On the coach side of things, beginning there, because you and I have dealt with this multiple times.
Mhm.
I would argue a high majority of the time, personal trainers, strength coaches, performance coaches, whatever you want to call them,
Mhm.
the ones that are very noticeably overweight, or, I mean, God forbid, obese on that side of things, a majority of the time, they are ineffective coaches as well.
Yeah.
Majority of the time. We're talking not getting clients results because they also can't hold themselves accountable
Right.
in that same way too.
Right. Well, and it's pretty obvious as well
Exactly.
by just looking at them.
Yeah.
You know?
And to say like you shouldn't, like just say to somebody that's looking for a trainer that they shouldn't just judge off of looks is a very like reductionist way of looking at it
Mhm.
because it's trying to basically get somebody to ignore what their eyes are seeing.
Right.
It's like if this guy cannot even get himself to lose 5% body fat or something like that, why in the world would I listen to him? How am I going to gain 20 pounds of muscle and lose body fat with him?
Right.
How is that possible?
It's the exact same way for sports.
Right.
If you had a hockey coach that was trying to teach you a particular hockey skill, but he couldn't skate.
In college, I had that.
Well, but so like he couldn't
He
skate.
was supposed to be a really great coach, but not really a respectable guy. But that's not the
Yeah. So if he can't skate, are you going to take advice from him, or are you going to take it seriously? Probably not.
Mhm.
You know, if I'm on the baseball field and the coach is trying to coach me, but he can't even play catch with me, am I going to take
Concerning.
that seriously?
very concerning.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That would be like me going and trying to coach baseball.
Yeah, or me coaching hockey. It's
Exactly.
the same thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, that's a good point too, because my skating coach growing up and then my skills coach growing up, usually two different coaches a lot of times. At least when I was growing up, that's how it was in hockey.
Mhm.
My skating coach, she was a stud. absolute stud, like had background in both hockey and figure skating. So like combine the two and how to use your edges, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So she was great. Then my skills coach, very well renowned in the area. Some people thought he was a brash personality, I think in a lot of ways too, but he was also very physically fit and could skate really well himself, and he had great hands himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was a great coach.
Yeah.
You know, again, why do people go to Jeff Lavecchio? Why do pro guys like Trent Frederick, and Joseph Wool go to him and get coached by him and trained by him in the offseason? Well, there's a reason for that, right? It's because Jeff is the man, for one, but also he played pro.
Yeah.
And he continues to live that life now.
Right.
There's real truth to that. Right. So like if Jeff was a guy who had never really had any success at all, but he had like genetic talent of some sort, let's just say that, but he never got past, NCAA D3 hockey, for example. And then Jeff also didn't live the life post-hockey career. Because hypothetically, if you're a D3, let's say you make D3 player, but then you live that life after as a coach really well, and you're still training yourself, you're still working hard, you're still getting results from players, that's a whole different story.
Obviously.
But if Jeff was to play D3 and then also lose his own fitness and just kind of be like, oh yeah, I played, or say I played pro and then just train with me, and that's it. He didn't have any other, what do you call it, resume to him. Accolades, yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of coaches, whether it's in the gym, strength coaching or performance coach, or sport-related coaches that just use the fact that they played pro, or played in the big leagues, played in the NHL or whatever sport just to get clients. But they might be an absolutely terrible coach. I've made a comment to you before, like on the baseball side of things, on MLB Network or something, you'll hear some of these big league guys in interviews trying to talk about hitting, and they sound like they've never hit before. And this is a guy that's hit 40 homers. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, he knows just how to execute on the field, but he is not someone that could teach it.
There's a difference.
And that's okay. Mm-hmm. But just because you played in the big leagues, like you shouldn't just use that to get clients or get, lessons or things like that. I think, Matt's a great example of this as well. He played in the big leagues for a long time, World Series champion, hit, over 100 homers in the big leagues and whatnot. Was he like a superstar of the game? By no means. No, he wasn't. However, he is now managing in the minor leagues and is doing great. He's doing great. And so that is someone that he has the playing experience, but he's not just using that to get into to get an in or to use that. Now that helps.
It's useful. 100%.
Obviously, yeah, it helps. It's a part of your resume, Same as you and I have a resume, like it helps. But he's a guy that can coach. Jeff's a guy that can coach.
Yep.
You and I are guys that can coach.
Well, and it's what you're saying with Matt and Jeff, for example. We're not saying with those two guys, for like, just to give a very extreme example here, we're not saying they should just be gifted like a head strength coach position for an NHL team. Correct. In Jeff's case, or straight up manager job in the big leagues for Matt right away, just because Matt was a World Series champion, or whatever, anything like that. Let's say Jeff did play 15 plus years in the NHL. That doesn't just mean he goes and be like, oh, yep, he's a head coach. Right. Head coach for the Blues right away. Right. That's not how that works either. So we're not saying the extreme aspect of it either. We're saying there's also work that comes into it. Sure. But there's also the baseline to where they both have that resume that comes along with it. By the way, both of them are still stud fitness guys too. Yeah. So like that is also a respect aspect. Definitely. For either of their careers. Doesn't matter if it's managing or doesn't matter if it's training / coaching. Right. So. And
sometimes that does happen, where a player immediately gets a manager job, or like the current president of baseball operations for the Giants is Buster Posey. You know what I mean? Like that's a big name. Obviously, he has a long list of accolades. Yadi Molina could do the same thing. He could be a manager right now. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yadi's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer, but also it showed on the field that he was already managing the field. And
very analytical, intelligent player. Yeah,
100%.
That's a great example though. And that's at the sports level, of course. But for those of you that are, strength coaches or personal trainers listening to this podcast too, or somebody that's even looking for a trainer as well, for the coaches talking to you guys, 100%, there needs to be an aspect that you're never going to avoid if you take care of your health and you are also dialed with your fitness, then clients will come. There's an aspect of that. Now, you won't just get a full book from just looking a certain way. That's not how it works at all. But there have been plenty of times, again, I've now for 3 years or so, my size has been 6'4", 230 to 260, right in that range. And I would be lying to you if I told you that I haven't had people come up and be like, "You're huge. What do you do for training?" And then like, "Oh, you do this? Okay, I'll sign up with you." You know?
Yeah,
or
right.
we've had friends, same thing. You guys look a certain way.
Yeah.
Okay. What's also part of your then they ask what your rest of your resume in, but it gets us a foot in the door too.
100%.
Big time. If you do look a certain way, it 100% gets you in the door.
I mean, bro, if we're being honest,
genetic height is obviously a factor in that too, but that's not the point.
If we're being honest, like girl fitness influencers are exactly that. They can look really good. They can look hot on Instagram and all this stuff, and they're going to get clients mostly from girls just because they look good.
But they might know how to coach, but
right.
But 100% it's going to get them in the door easier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to do her glute program because of that.
Right.
You know, or something like that. Or
right.
For example, that's a very common thing in the girls' fitness industry, of course.
It is. Right.
You know, so you're right. You'd be lying if the component of the physical aesthetics is not part of the equation here for coaches. So for you coaches, take care of that portion of it.
Look the part. If
you're going to be a bodybuilding coach, you better look way better than what Wurtz and I have to look.
Right.
Coaching athletes in gen population.
Correct.
I'll be honest with you. Like that's nobody, like you're not going to sit like a tub of lard or something like that and just sit there spilling over your jeans or something like that and expect to coach bodybuilding athletes. It's not going to happen.
You know, and like, I don't know what Hani Rambod's physique looks like. Like, I don't know what he looks like without a shirt, but is he the most jacked guy we've ever seen? No, not necessarily. But look at his enormous list of accolades and the people he has coached, and look at their accolades.
Yeah, and I believe if you look up Hani when he was younger, because I think he is late 40s now, early 50s.
I would guess he's around there. Yeah.
If you look up when he was younger, he was, from what I understand, his physique was very,
I have
very
no doubt.
solid back then. Yeah, too.
But I mean, even now he's still coaching. Well,
exactly.
C-Bum isn't competing anymore, I suppose. But even right now, he's coaching C-Bum.
Right.
You know,
and you're talking again 25, 26 plus Olympia titles under Hani's belt.
Right.
Essentially with all the athletes he's had and whatnot and all the results he gets. You watch his YouTube, you can see it because he shows it in his videos and how knowledgeable he is and whatnot. It's very obvious in the bodybuilding case. Now, again, we're not talking bodybuilding here, but that's 100% just a random little side note. If you are a bodybuilding coach listening to this, you have to look the part.
100%.
Or you have to have stood on stage at some point in time too. Yeah. That's why I don't coach bodybuilding athletes because I've never stood on a stage before.
Exactly.
You know? But so coaches, that's kind of your thing. As for the clients of you guys looking at coaches and, you know, is that the only thing to determine off of is the way a coach looks? No, it's not. You and I would both agree. I think that's true. Like that's not the only thing to look off of just because they look good.
Yeah.
As we talked about with girl fitness influencers, there are some that are really stupid.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
Just like there are also male influencers we've talked about in the science-based episode that are idiots too.
Of course.
You know?
Yes.
So, but 100% it is something you should be considering.
Right.
But even for you clients, it's a foot in the door type of thing. Okay, you see somebody that's jacked, look into their videos, or if you can actually talk to them in person, like you could, Wurtz and I, for example, asks in person, asks about our philosophies, asks us about our training, DM us about it. You know, that type of stuff. Like pick our brains a little bit.
Yeah.
Do we actually know what we're talking about when we touch on this stuff, et cetera?
Your point is ask the questions. See the person. You can make a determine yes or no if you want. And especially if the answer is yes, then ask the questions. Figure out if they know what they're talking about. Figure out what their experience is. You know, maybe past places they've trained. If it's guys like us where we have an online app, like you can ask for testimonials, things like that. And like we have those on hand. We can get those to you. So it's not just coming from us, because obviously we're going to talk positively about what we offer because we want you to be one of our clients. We want to help you out. But if you can, get testimonials and read those or talk to current or former clients. You know, hey, why do you continue to train month over month over month with these guys? Hey, why did you stop training with these guys? Was it something with them? Was it just not in your budget, or, you know, whatever it is? So ask the questions, you know, basically interview them, do a job interview with them.
Sort of. Yeah.
You know?
And again, you don't have to make it like super professional, but like in a way, in your own head, you should be considering it a job interview.
Yeah.
If you're actually going to invest your hard-earned cash with them, they need to be worth that hard-earned cash, 100%.
Same as you should a gym.
Oh, yeah.
You know, hey, is this a place that I could get myself to every day, or, you know, X amount of days per week? Is it in my budget? Does it have equipment? Or, you know, does it have equipment I want? Does it have turf that I want? Does it have a sled? Does it have mirrors?
How's the culture?
Could I film in here if you want to film and do content and stuff? So it's the same idea with a gym. Does it fit your needs, your wants?
Yep.
Same as a coach.
100%.
Does this coach fit your needs, fit your wants? Can they help you get results? Have they gotten other people results?
Yeah.
I
think that's a really good segue now to the final part of the episode, where we're going to talk, guys. We talked about how physical fitness in general life and how important it is for the respect you gain through it as well, and also how people treat you.
Yeah.
There's a very there's kind of like a very hidden science-based, so to speak, logical-based concept.
So you're science-based.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. But if I was science-based, I wouldn't be doing sandbags. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, right. Right.
But there's this very interesting logical concept / also it's technically a form of science. It's called physiognomy. It's basically like you look at somebody and you can judge a book by its cover, so to speak, is the general idea of it. You can go look up physiognomy online and actually look at the real definition of it. But the general idea is to judge a book by its cover thing.
Yeah.
For example, if you look at somebody with blue hair, 90 to 95% of the time, you can tell something from that, right? And I know they're usually an idiot. Yeah, 100%. Or they're insane in general, usually, because that's always a concerning factor. But again, that is physiognomy to a degree, is like statistically likely if somebody has blue hair, they're going to think this way.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
If you see somebody wearing a stringer, massive delts, jacked, juicy, all that stuff, how are they going to think? How are they going to talk to me?
Right.
All that stuff. Like how are they going to be? How's their, what's their jawline look like? That type of stuff, and all this stuff is 100% something you can improve on. That's the beauty about physical fitness, is you can improve on it. Obviously, for you men, height is something that, you can't literally enhance your height through growth hormone or something like that.
Right.
Maybe when they're a kid, I don't know.
I was going to say,
I don't know. There's might be stuff in that, but height's a different story. Like height's a whole game plan to where, of course, we're not talking about enhancing height here, but physical fitness 100% can be enhanced to a very high degree. And that also comes with gaining respect. It's any study you look at, if they place somebody in front of a fit person in one part of the study and then a fat person in another part of the study, there's a certain way that person interacts with the person comparatively.
Yeah.
It's also shown that just subconsciously, people that are overweight and obese don't do as well in job interviews too, or they don't get respected as well in the workforce.
Well, because their stress is higher, their cortisol levels are higher,
and you can tell. Again, like we have biological, very much so, like we can pick up on these biological tells that somebody has.
Yeah,
and it might be as simple as, okay, they're like 350 pounds. That's obvious, of course. You can always tell when somebody's stressed and they're hanging their head low, that type of stuff too. That comes into play.
Sweating, like just sitting there
profusely all the time. Like you can pick up on all these things. Like humans are animals, guys. There is like that beautiful instinctual aspect we still have in our bodies, and I think we ignore that a lot of the times too.
Sure.
Are we 100% different than the rest of the animal kingdom? Yes, there's no doubt about that. Obviously, I'm saying that, but there is that instinctual animal aspect that is important. It's what we were talking about last week in episode 162, where we talked about, like being aware downtown in St. Louis.
Yeah.
The biological tells, the body language, how they walk, how they dress,
how they're talking,
how they carry themselves, etc.
Right.
And being aware of that when you're in a place like downtown St. Louis, which is dangerous. But in this case, like for those of you that you're on that edge of like, you still haven't gotten into fitness or whatever, or maybe you have gotten into fitness, this is another add-on to why you should continue to build that fitness too.
Because you're going to garner more respect. You're going to walk in the room. People are going to see like, okay, this guy takes care of himself. He's disciplined. He has good habits. He's aware of what he puts in his body. He chooses to spend time on himself or herself. Those are important things. So if you're walking into a job interview or a business meeting of some sort, and you walk in and you are in good shape, you're walking with confidence, your chest is out, like you look good, you look confident, you look prepared, you're going to garner more respect in that conversation. It's a scientific fact, just like what you're talking about. But if you walk in sloppy, you're overweight, you're walking slow, you're hunched over, you just said the head is hanging, you're sweating just from walking to the car to the building, like there's going to be a little bit of a discredit.
There's going to be a question mark added to it for sure.
Question mark, yeah. It's like, okay, is this someone that we trust to be a part of our organization? Or is this someone we want to partner up with for this sponsorship or
Mhm.
just a partnership in general, whatever. Like, maybe not. Because, yeah, he might have all the right things to say or offer, and maybe he's got the education or the experience, and maybe he would be a good fit inside of our organization. But do we really think that we can trust him to come in every single day, put in good work, get results, and help the business grow when he looks like that? I don't know. It's a risk, because maybe he will. Maybe he will, or maybe she will. But it's a risk.
Statistically, it is a risk.
Of course.
100%.
And we're not just saying that fit people are always 100% guaranteed success.
We're talking about high averages here.
Exactly.
Like we're talking about the statistical majority is what we're talking about.
Right.
Anytime we talk about concepts like this, guys, assume we are talking about the statistical majority.
Yes.
We are not talking about the exceptions.
Right.
Obviously.
Right.
The fit people that are like also lazy in their life.
Of course.
It's very unusual for that to happen, but it is a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
being fit has way more positives than just feeling and looking good.
Mm-hmm. Well, and ask any CEO too. Any CEO high level you talk about. Bezos is a great example, actually. See how fit he's gotten recently?
Zuckerberg, same thing.
Zuckerberg.
Like,
the last 3 to 5 years, Zuckerberg and Bezos, they present a certain image now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they can feel the tide turning in the world. That's a whole nother conversation for a breaking
Sure.
news episode, of course. But,
of course.
like it does present a different image
Right.
when both of them are fit as well.
Right.
And you see anybody like, especially guys like Bedros Keuilian, for example,
Yeah.
talks about this all the time. Any of the guys who run
Sean Whalen.
Sean
another
Whalen's
one.
another guy who talks about it a lot. And any of these guys who have podcasts that are like masculinity based, that type of stuff, or they're just CEO based, they always talk about they can tell when somebody walks in a room,
Mm-hmm.
and they do have a certain amount more respect for somebody that is fit.
Yeah.
So if you're hearing this from guys that are 100 millionaires plus,
Mm-hmm.
that's an important tell for you also in your daily life
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And Jocko talks on it a lot. Rogan has talked on that. Ed Milet, and the obvious ones are Andy and Sal Frisella, obviously. But we also, we personally know guys like Ian Hutchinson and Jordan Shatley with S2. These are the guys running S2. Wes Osborne's another one. But, we really know Ian and Jordan. Jordan, former Untapped podcast guest.
Season 2, episode 22.
That's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a while back.
Yep. He was like one of our best listened episodes at the time, too.
Yeah, still is, actually.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Really,
guest.
really good episode. Really great guy. Really good friend of ours, for sure. But, both of those guys are killing it in the gym, which is why they're killing it for S2. And Ian's got his real estate stuff going as well. And so, like, he has the capacity, those guys have the capacity to handle the stress that comes with running a huge company like Supplement Superstores because they put themselves under that stress. We didn't even mention that aspect. If you are willing and able to put yourself under that stress daily in some physical manner, whether it's in the gym or a run or a ruck, walk, it doesn't matter, an at-home workout, heck, even if you get down to 100 push-ups, because that's all you could do that day, whatever, you're choosing to put your body and your mind under that stress. When you get to work with your business or you're running a business or whatever, you will be able to handle the stress that comes with that better. It doesn't mean you'll be stress-free by any means, but you and I can handle the stress of those things much better because we choose to put ourselves under physical stress.
We also choose to take care of our hormones too.
That as well.
That's another thing that's forgotten. Episode 152 with John Fogarty.
Yeah.
We talk about the importance of hormones and
Right.
optimization of that as well.
Right.
So that's another thing to keep in mind, guys, too. If you're crossing off all the boxes and you still feel like shit, we got other things to ask too about hormones there.
Right.
Get your blood work done.
Yeah.
100%.
And we choose to use the supplements that we do for reasons that aid in this as well. Creatine being a massive part of that. So it does a lot more for you than just looking and feeling good.
Yep.
It really does.
100%.
Yeah. Is Mitch even alive over there? No.
I think he's doom scrolling. Yeah.
You got anything to add to this? You're I would say you're more in the corporate world than what we are. I mean, I suppose I'm kind of in the corporate world now, but do you have anything kind of on that side of things to add?
I think in the corporate world, you see more people become a little, I guess, more complacent because it's a desk job, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people there, you're still going to be able to execute at a high level because your brain is still functioning at a high level, right? Because most of that is just knowledge work. You see, what I will say is the technical work typically you can let your physical lax a little bit. And I say that because the higher you get in the corporate world, the less of that you need to know. And my point with that is that the C-suites, the director levels, they're the ones engaging with people on a day-to-day basis, not necessarily talking about technical things, more so talking about strategy. And when you present an image and you're a little bit more prepared for those kind of conversations. You're not necessarily relying so much on, what's 1 + 1, what's 2 + 2. You're more so relying on relationship building and stuff like that. That's what I would say. Typically, that's why you see that difference at a high level. For example, a company I work with, the president, CEO, whatever you want to call him, he's late 50s, early 60s, avid runner, runs half marathons all the time. He's a beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a stud. But I mean, he's not necessarily doing that technical day to day. He's more so doing the steering, which is a little different. That's what I would say that you typically see in the corporate world.
Well, and some of the things you just mentioned also go for sales, salespeople. And our buddies Jake and JT, who are both in sales for their respective companies, they also take care of themselves. So if you have a salesman approaching you on whatever it is they're trying to sell, are you going to pay more attention to a guy that is in shape trying to sell you something? Probably. Probably. That's someone you're going to take a little bit more serious. Now, it also helps that those two specific guys are great conversationalists. I mean, fantastic. Some of the best that we know. So when you have great conversation skills, great people skills, great relationship building skills like they do, and then you add on top being in shape, clearly taking care of yourself, like you're going to do well. And there's a reason both of those guys do well.
Yep.
And I would say you and I are like that as well. Like we're really good at building relationships. We've done a ton of that over the last, 4 years, 5 years, even before we started the podcast, and you and I were not afraid to ask the questions and we're not afraid to be learners. But we also pick the right people to learn from, and you look around, there's not really anyone that's out of shape that we're asking questions to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Very accurate. I wonder too, you talking about the C-suite people, Mitchell, as well, on the same topic here. I wonder if it's also that at that level when these guys are naturally very high performers at the C-suite level, of course. So I wonder, is it that they are recognizing the importance of that health aspect even more so now, along with the fact that, okay, it presents an image, yes, 100%, but are they a great example because they recognize how important health is to their performance at that level too?
I don't think it's a vacuum. I think naturally, whenever you start becoming good at having high level conversations and stuff like that, you start to look toward building yourself to provide better value. Because typically those people at the higher levels, they're, as much as you want to say it, they're responsible for a lot more. If I mess something up, typically it can be remedied pretty quickly or it can be fixed. If a C-suite or a high-level director messes something up, it could be a financial mistake that results in hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. It could cause issues with an employee base. Their decisions are a lot more valuable. So you see less of those decisions happen, but they have much more impact, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and there's much more thought and analyzation that goes into those decisions as well.
So I would say it's not necessarily a vacuum, right? There's going to be chunky CEOs everywhere you look too.
Sure.
It's more so the idea of being able to make quality decisions that kind of start to provide that perspective, and that will usually expand outside of your work is what I will say. It's not a vacuum. It's going to expand outside.
They also have the money to invest at a high level at that level too. Now, again, it probably could have been that they were also deciding to make that investment early on before they got to the C-suite level too. I mean, that's not an accident, but of course, like you said, like even Andy was fat at some point in time too as a CEO,
Yeah.
of course. So,
Yeah.
like it doesn't take away from the fact that there is, but again, those are a lot of times I think the exceptions.
I mean, it's the argument right there that I just made. It's the argument Andy's always made, is that he always bitched and complained that he was not as effective at 350 pounds as he is at 260. I mean, that's just recognition on his part. But I mean, he saw that he was not as effective, and he made that decision to be more effective because he understands his decisions affect 400, 500 employees, where he's steering it, where, a first form employee may make a bad edit or something like that. They're making a lot more of those decisions. There's a lot more quantity, but there may be less, I guess,
impact,
quality. Yeah. It's not to say the work isn't bad.
Sure.
It's just to say there's a little bit less impact at that level.
It can be fixed much easier.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
you make a bad edit, or you pack a box wrong or something. You put the wrong protein powder.
That can be remedied.
Yes. It can be fixed.
That's a $60 return or whatever it may be. But if you steer the company the wrong direction, that's a much larger change. So
that could be multi-million.
That's the argument I would make. I would say it's not a vacuum, because you're going to see chunky people in every stage of life. You're going to see chunky trainers. I mean, you're going to see chunky fitness trainers. I mean, you're going to see that everywhere. It's more so the person making those decisions to provide a better value to whatever that may be. Because the U.S. economy is a service-based economy, right? I mean, that's the extent of it. You're providing a service, and when you're operating at a higher level, which typically comes with a better mental, which typically comes with better physical fitness. They're all related. You can still do the stuff if you aren't physically fit.
Sure.
But they compound, I would say.
Yeah. I would love to see the percentages of compare C-suite or high level executives to the rest of the population in the United States. And I would love to see the health differentials. I don't know if there's been a study like that done. If there is, send it our way, guys, please.
Yeah.
I would be very fascinated to see that, because I wonder if it is like 80-90% are in like some kind of decent physical shape. Yeah. And then the rest of the population in the US is 75% overweight. You know what I mean?
It probably isn't even that high, if we're being honest. I mean, 80 to 90% of that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And again, we're talking about operators. Like, are these people on statistically majority, are they going to be more analytical even about their health at that level? Probably.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, I would hope so for sure. And it's also, I would respect a leader like that more. That's also what I do for a living.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's probably not 80-90%. I would imagine it's a significantly higher amount compared to the general population, but it's hard to confirm that by any means, for sure.
Yeah.
The argument there is that when an individual, specifically at a corporate level, you're really kind of pigeonholed in that 9 to 5. You don't have options. When you consistently make decisions, I'd say, that make your life harder, so to speak, you're compromising things to make yourself better, right? The bodybuilder who works as an accountant at a large corporation, who gets up at 5 a.m. to get an hour of cardio in before he starts his job, works from 7 to 3, goes to the gym for an hour after. He's making sacrifices to improve himself, which hypothetically you're going to imagine, we can't say it will, but you're going to imagine that mindset is going to translate to saying, hey, I want to be better at my job.
Yep.
At the same time, while I want to be better at improving my physical. That's what I would say.
Right. No, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's looking at these high-level people as an example. Like, that's why it's very interesting to analyze high-level people.
Yeah.
That's why we try to talk to the people, like we do at Summer Smash and the Expo, et cetera, because it's very interesting to pick these people's brains.
Absolutely.
I mean, somebody like Ian Smith doesn't make, like, that's not by accident.
Right.
That he decided to stand up and actually, make a real stand to the government.
Absolutely.
So that doesn't happen by accident. It also didn't happen by accident that he has 500,000 followers either.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to pick people like that's brain, just like it is to pick CEOs or CFOs and their brains and see what they think too.
And that's also, like, on that note, and we've talked about this in the past, but that's why it's so important, guys. Just go up and talk to these people. Don't interrupt a current conversation that they might be in. Certainly don't be rude like that or anything like that. But go up and talk to these people. Ask them questions. If you want to be a fan, great. Snag a picture and then move on. But if you truly want to talk to them, get to know how they got to where they are, and whatever else, just go up and talk to them. Introduce yourself, shake your hand, have that confidence, and do that. Because like you just said, it's so interesting and fun to pick those types of people's brains. It really is. When, again, we mentioned that our upcoming episode here is going to be really, really cool. It wouldn't happen if we didn't do what I just said, So just go up and talk to people.
Yeah.
In my opinion, to summarize the bodybuilder thing, I would say it probably culminates in, you typically see high performers stem more from making those decisions. They're not drifting. That's the word I would use. They're not just drifting. They don't just go into the office, log on the computer, and then drift through work. They're doing things pretty mindless. Those high performers are going to be making very specific decisions that they're thinking of, that they've pre-thought out, that they've considered, that they've said this is going to improve. I would say the average person, you're going to see a lot of drifting. Oh, I go to work, I do my thing, I drift through this, and you're not really making decisions for yourself. That's where I would say the difference is you're making
Nothing's
very
decisive,
specific decisions at that high level.
Right.
Very pointed actions.
In making specific decisions to improve your mental health, to improve your physical health. You're making specific decisions. You're not drifting.
Yeah.
They might make a specific decision not to focus on their physical health, which is
could be
okay. And they might specifically focus on growing the business, as Andy likely did, as he's talked about many times. He made a specific decision. I guarantee it was very calculated to more so lean into building First Form. And then he said, oh shit, I need to make a specific decision to take it to that next level.
Yeah. Right.
It didn't happen by accident.
Yeah. No, those are great points there, Mitch. All right, guys. At the end of all of our non-guest episodes, Money Mitch right there, who just talked for so long. It's crazy.
Awesome. Yeah.
Took the headphones off and he realized he could talk.
He likes hearing himself. That's why.
Money Mitch will ask us a Q&A question that's submitted by you guys, the listeners or the viewers. Now, we have a few different ways we would like you to submit these to us. First, you can DM them to us on Instagram at untapped.llp. You can also DM them to us individually. You can text them to us if you have our numbers. Next, you can email them to us. Our email is extricationfitness@gmail.com. It's a mouthful, so there's an email button in our Instagram bio and our Facebook bios. You can just click that. It'll take you right to your email. You can type it up, send it there. Boom. Finally, you can leave them in the comments of any of our social media posts across all 4 major platforms. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X. I guess I should say all 5 because YouTube is also included in that. So all of these podcast episodes are also on YouTube, if you did not know. So go over there and like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's free to do that. Helps us tremendously. We also have our vlogs on there, and we have, 13 YouTube exclusive videos. I believe it's 13.
You're correct. Yep.
So on our off weeks from the podcast, there might be weeks where you realize we didn't release a new episode. We more than likely have a YouTube exclusive video out on YouTube. So a lot of stuff on YouTube.
Come on over, audio people.
That's right. A lot of stuff on Instagram and TikTok and X, not quite so much, but the occasional, tweets and whatnot on there. But the point is you can leave your comment or your questions in the comments on any of those platforms. All of these questions get sent over to Money Mitch. He then picks one out that pertains to the topic of the episode. Maybe it pertains to a past episode, or maybe it's just a random question that you have about anything. It can be funny, it can be supplement related, health related, current event related. It doesn't really matter. Just submit your questions. They get sent over to him, and then he picks one out, and here we go.
Sorry, I couldn't hold it in. And here we go. Sound like Bruce
Buffer?
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
That's what we need to introduce Mitchell from now on.
That's right.
That'd be pretty funny.
That's right.
So, how much grace do we give to a book whose cover we don't necessarily agree with? Meaning, and I see you guys as blank stares.
Blank stares. I was just waiting for you to say your point.
What do you ask?
Yeah. The individuals who you may at face value may disagree with their lifestyle or how they dress or how they look. How much grace do you give them to maybe pick their brains to see who they are, to see what they actually stand for? How much grace do you give those individuals off the rip?
You deport them.
just has absolutely nothing to do with the episode.
Just no nuance at all.
I mean, what?
Even the legal citizens. See ya.
No nuance. That has nothing to do with the question at all.
Sorry, guys.
That's kind of the point.
He was just waiting to say that there.
Yep, I was.
I have to say it. I have to say it. I have to say it. Okay, he's done. I have to say it.
I was itching.
That's an interesting question. I think if this is someone that you can see the results of their business, because I'll go to the business route because that's typically how we go. If their business has great results, it's a big company, it's a successful company, it's worth a lot of money, they have a lot of employees, they would probably get more grace because they clearly know what they're doing to some extent, and that's someone that you could certainly learn from on the business side of things. You could certainly learn valuable lessons or skills from that person to then apply to your own business and or life. So I would say if someone has physical results that you can see as far as their business goes or their lifestyle goes, they would probably garner more grace. But if you have someone that is out of shape and then you start talking to them and let's just say you don't know this person
that's what the context I was going to ask is like, is it an in-person conversation? What know this person? Right.
Mitch said yes, just in case you guys didn't hear that. But if it's someone, maybe you just know who they are somehow, and you have no insight to what their lifestyle is or what their business is, and they're overweight, but you get an opportunity to talk to this person, they're going to have less room for that grace because you don't actually know how successful they might be. They clearly are not successful in their physical or fitness journey by any means because this person is out of shape, overweight, or whatever. So they're going to garner less grace. It's going to take more proving on their end to get you to pay attention or to listen to them. I think that's what I would go with.
Yeah. I definitely want to make it clear. Like, obviously, if I don't know somebody and they come up and talk to me, whether they're overweight, obese, or in perfect shape, like I'm going to hear the conversation 100% every day of the week.
Well, sure.
It's not like we don't talk to overweight or obese people or something. Of course not. Obviously we do.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty clear with the work we do.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
Absolutely.
So it's not like we're not talking to these people, but it depends on how much, respect you can give their excuses to whenever they get talking at this point in time.
It's a good one. Keep going on that.
How much input can you take from this person when you hear them make these excuses?
Yeah.
And it's most of the time for a majority of people, it's going to be pretty basic excuses. There's going to be those cases where they've had just horrendous things happen to them in life too.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's
real things too.
That's like you got to give some questions and be like, oh my gosh, like how can we get this person out of this scenario?
Yeah.
For example, in that scenario. But when it comes like respect for their opinions with that, or their respect for their excuses, not their opinions. It's going to be harder if they start down the path of like instantly, right away, the minute you're like, you going to the gym or are you training with anybody or et cetera? Cause it's a lot of times it's happened with family members or at these events or whatnot too. And it's like, I've kind of fallen off and whatnot. But this and this going on, and it's just like work and family stuff, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Just normal stuff in life. That's when you're like, okay, my grace is weaning a little bit.
Yeah.
It's waning, I should say. Excuse me. So
it's a good angle to take because I think about the gentleman Andy had on who was, I don't remember his name. He was like 600 pounds, and I forget
Anthony something.
Crazy.
I know you're talking about, but
story.
I forget his last name.
But you see a guy like that on the street, and I guarantee all of us do it. Christian or not, religious or not, whatever, you form an opinion pretty quickly. And you might ask yourself some questions. Oh my gosh, how did they get like that? Blah, blah, blah. And then you maybe talk to this person or maybe you hear their story. Like we were saying, an in-person conversation, you could also hear a story from a person who you were quick to judge on a podcast, on media, whatever it is. And you start to understand their story and you understand the reasons for it. Mm-hmm. That's the angle I would go is starting to understand the reasons behind it and giving grace in that way and understanding those layers of why this happened.
It's really funny that you just said what you said, Mitch, and kind of the angle you were going at, because as you were talking, I was thinking, and this is like something I've absolutely done. We're around S2 and First Form a ton, different events, whatever. We're around it a ton. And there are hundreds of stories from both of those companies of huge weight loss journeys. Huge. We're talking massive, multiple hundreds of pounds. And then we've had conversations. As a matter of fact, we know a guy pretty well through an S2 event that when we got to go to the Chiefs game. But we've met people who are still overweight, still significantly overweight. And like you just said, Mitch, you form an opinion. Maybe it's the first time you've ever seen this person, met them, whatever, but you form an opinion. It's just human nature. You said earlier, we are still animals,
Mm-hmm.
but it's human nature to just think, man, you are fat, But then you get to talk to this person for 5 minutes and you hear, yeah, I've actually lost 150 pounds. I used to be,
I was going to say that's
I used to be
exactly what it
500
was.
pounds and now I'm 350. And it's like, holy shit, man. That is so awesome.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm getting goosebumps right now because we've literally had conversations like this, and then you feel stupid and you're like, man, I'm a piece of shit for thinking that, but it's like, I didn't really mean to, but I did, and it's like, this person is, they might've been fighting for their life. Literally, if you're 500 pounds, you're fighting for your life every single day. You can't live normally at 500 pounds.
Mm.
We've talked about that as well, but this person is on the hardest journey of their life that they will probably ever have. No job can compare to that. No relationship can compare to that. Nothing. And so it's like, I got to support this person,
Mm-hmm.
whether they want training, whether they just want support, whether I can just hype them up on Instagram or whatever. But it's like, you make that judgment and you very well could be so wrong. You could be right. Because there's plenty of people that are 500 pounds and they're just 500 pounds, and they're just fat and they're lazy and they don't do anything. But there was even a time where you and I were at the gym together and we had two young guys walk in front of us and they were, they looked skinny and they kind of had some goofy looking tattoos. And we both made very quick judgments. And then we talked to those guys later in that same gym session. And it's like, these guys are actually good guys. Like they're trying to do good things. They're young. They're on their fitness journeys. They're trying to put on weight. They're trying to train. They're trying to get into personal training. One of them does crazy good content for a lot of people. Is making really good money, and it's like we were really wrong,
Mm-hmm.
And so same thing. It doesn't just have to be a fat person, but you make those quick judgments, and if you get the opportunity to talk to these people, there's a chance that you could be extremely wrong.
Yeah. Oh, and then you need to have some understanding for yourself and say, well, damn, like you said, I really need to start rethinking
Right.
how I approach myself. Now we're kind of going in the softer side of us where we're talking about, from the get-go, be a little nicer, but it does pay dividends. I'd say more than not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could take us, for example, where we're saying, we're kind of having the conversation of people who have legit excuses
Mm-hmm.
right now. You and I, we didn't have legit excuses,
No.
right? We can go, so we're on the softer side. Now let's go to a little bit of a harsher side. We didn't have legit excuses.
No.
But you have to have critical thinking skills to have that ability to say, okay, man, are these real or are you just being lazy and
Right.
being a bum? In the case, you and me,
Yeah.
we're being lazy
Yeah.
and being bums.
Definitely.
And we can admit that,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not going to know that until you understand a little bit of that
Yeah.
behind the scenes.
And have some self-awareness too. In
100%.
those types of instances when
100%.
you're just talking with yourself type of thing. Yeah.
I think it's key too to keep in mind and give yourself grace if you do make those judgments, because every human does it.
Yeah.
The only humans, I should say, that probably have it almost mastered to not judge are like pastors and priests. And even them,
You would hope
I
anyway.
guarantee you they struggle with it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Especially the ones who you see talking, like there's a lot of Orthodox or priests and Catholic priests, and then top Protestant people that are very stoic in their thinking. You can tell in the way they think,
Mhm.
because people come to them and ask questions all the time, so they have practice
Yeah.
on not judging people right off
Right.
the bat.
Right.
These are people who it's literally their job not to judge people.
Yeah.
So it's basically
Yeah.
a skill they had to develop. So I want to keep in mind, like, naturally these judgments are going to come, but it's how you adapt after.
Yeah.
You know, are you giving the grace to that 500-pound person and realize that they're actually crushing it? You know, are you giving the grace to the skinny guys after that too and realizing your mistake?
Yeah.
And are you thinking on how your actual thought process goes? Because it's not really softer, Mitchell. This is just actually a very smart way about going through life, because it's a much more effective way of going through life, sitting there and realizing, okay, I need to stop making these judgments, because it's going to lead you to better conversations doing that anyways.
Yeah.
Now, again, like after you figure out the story, then you can drop the hammer if necessary.
Yeah.
100%. Like if you guys were talking in your case, that's when you need to drop the hammer. I dropped the hammer on Mitchell. He could tell you.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he followed through.
Yeah.
You know, same thing. And I didn't even necessarily drop the hammer with you because you had already started.
Yeah.
But it was just like, you coming to the gym with me?
But you were the accelerator.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. I didn't even necessarily have to drop the hammer, but in a way I did, because I was like, you coming to the gym with me?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's get it.
Exactly.
You know, so that's when the harshness
Yeah.
can come into play there.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Man, good stuff, boys.
Hmm?
That was good stuff.
Very
right
good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys. That is episode 163. Please share the show. Share it to your Instagram stories, Spotify, and Apple Music. Make it extremely easy to share from the audio platforms. Now, if you are a YouTube viewer, take a picture of your laptop screen, your TV screen, your movie screen, your blimp. I don't know. Like maybe.
Blimp.
Yeah, maybe it's on a blimp, projector or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Huh. Okay.
I don't know.
That's an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just needed something else to say, and blimp came out.
Totally
I don't know why.
understand. Yeah.
Untapped podcast on the drive-in movie theater.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's tough.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Those type of towns, we need to bring those back. Oh, man.
There's one not far from us. Anyway, let's focus here. That's after the mics are off conversation.
You're right. Yeah, they don't want to hear about our life at all.
Yeah, right. The point is, share the show, guys, please. It is free, and it really, really does truly help us more than what you think. Share the clips that you see on Instagram and TikTok. Like, comment. Moke is over here yelling at you guys to do it as well. So for those of you that continue to do that, thank you. We see it. We appreciate it. And we love you guys. So until next time, peace and love.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.